Hi there, this is Eric Igelko, and welcome to Season 2 of the Easy Deals podcast, sponsored by Palm Tree Properties. All right, welcome back. Well, I am very excited today to have my first repeat guest. Justin is a longtime friend, as well as he is the top producing broker for 2025 at Palm Tree Properties. Justin Verdugo, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Justin was actually our Season 1, Episode 1 guest, and at the time, he was working at a different brokerage company, as was I, and I was able to leave, start my own firm, and eventually court Justin over. So Justin, for the folks who are just catching up from the last episode, tell us, where have you been? What have you done since we last talked?
Since we last talked, I ended up joining you over at Palm Tree Properties, and we came to a decision to really brand myself over in Ramona. And so that's what we spent all last year doing. A lot of trial and error, but I feel like this year is our year to really shine.
Yeah, so at our brokerage at Palm Tree Properties, we're really taking a different approach to how we are teaming up with agents. Whereas many, big companies, the different acronyms of the world, just try to recruit as many agents as possible and really are not incentivized to make people perform well. We are taking a different approach where I am basically hand selecting agents that I am pretty much going into business with. And so Justin lives in Ramona, had a fair amount of business in Ramona, and we really saw an opportunity to grow this as a market. So Justin, for people who don't know, what is Ramona all about?
Ramona, I was having a conversation with a client actually the other day. It's more of country vibe, but more small town feel. So people that are moving out there, they've either been out there forever, or they're going out there because they want more space, they want a larger house, it's not as expensive, or they just want to kind of escape from the chaos of the world.
If you had to describe the specs of the housing options in Ramona, what can people expect to get?
Big houses and a lot of land.
Big houses, a lot of land. Neighbors probably aren't too close.
Right.
So we have taken a lot of different strategies to building Justin's business in Ramona. And before we get into what's working, let's talk about a couple of our mishaps from last year. Why don't you tell everyone about the Pony League?
Oh yes, the Pony League. So we ended up sponsoring the whole baseball fields as far as like the young kids and everything like that. So I think there's like 4 or 5 fields over there, and we did a whole complex sponsorship. And I think we got like a hat and a couple banners, but ultimately we spent like 10,000 on that.
It was, I'll tell you what we should have picked up on is that the previous sponsor was also a real estate agent, and that they were not renewing their sponsorship. But you got to try to find out what doesn't work, as well as to find out what does work. Speaking of what does work, in terms of our marketing strategy, what do you see as being your most effective way to drive new business?
The mailers, open houses, and we're captivating a little bit more of these like niche type of groups that we'll talk a little bit more on. But ultimately, like branding the car was actually really good, but I have to be a very good driver now. Everyone knows where I'm at.
Yeah, no, we'll put a photo over, but Justin and taking his blood oath to join our firm agreed to have his car wrapped in Palm Tree Properties branding. And, I'll tell you, it actually works. I've had several calls of people who have said, hey, we've seen your advertisements around and we're interested in what we're doing. So let's switch gears for a bit. You had a really insane end to the year in terms of your brokerage business. We actually, in the first 5 days of 2026, closed 5 escrows together. How the heck did that happen?
A lot of blood and sweat and tears. No, we were working on several transactions for a few months. 2 were, towards the end of the year, but one in particular that ended up being one of the hardest transactions I've ever had in my career. But luckily, with your help, and then just staying calm and collected, and really, trying to get the most for both parties and everyone involved, it ended up.
So this deal was quite a doozy, and anyone who knows my background knows that takes quite a lot for me to say that. So Justin Verdugo's most challenging transaction. Give us the scoop.
Okay, so it initially started off as just helping out with the open house.
Okay, so this was in Ramona.
This was in Ramona, correct? Yeah, and because that's where I do most of the open houses, and so I ended up doing this open house 5 days a week, and ultimately ended up.
Wait, did you say five days a week?
Yeah, 5 days a week, and it was out in the middle of nowhere, putting out 30 signs, so took a lot of time, schedule, but missed a couple baseball games, but it's okay. It's all for the greater good. So anyway, these sellers, they parted ways with their previous agent, and the agent, for context, told me, hey, they're very, very challenging, just a heads up. And me, being a glutton for punishment, was like, yeah, whatever, I can handle this. And so I ended up taking on the deal. As expected, very, very challenging sellers, despite, ton of marketing effort. I think we ended up spending like $4,000 or $5,000 in mailers, because we mailed basically everyone in Ramona, did a bunch of marketing campaigns, and we just couldn't get it sold at the price. Ultimately, it was the price. Obviously, most of the time it is. And so my time ran out as far as no, actually, I take that back. I did get it under contract with the contingent buyer, but they could not get their house under contract as well. So they decided they wanted to try to sell it with a cash buyer program, which ended up being a wholesaler, or no, it ended up being an auction type agent who priced it extremely low, but still didn't get any offers. And then that didn't work out, so they tried to sell it themselves. That didn't work out, and then they came back to me, and again, this whole punishment thing.
Okay, so just to summarize here, it was listed with another agent.
Yeah.
Then it was listed with you.
Yep.
Then it was listed with an auction. Then it was for sale by owner. And then it was once again listed with Justin. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, then what happened?
All right, so we got on the market for, I think, about a couple weeks, and I had some clients that were shopping, and I'd put the property in front of them before when it was a higher price, put it back in front of them at a lower price, and said, I think I can get you guys in here at XYZ. So they agreed to come in and check it out, and we ended up getting them under contract. The caveat is that they had to sell their property as well. So
I'm sure at this point everything just went smooth.
Yeah, exactly right. So the whole thing with double ending a transaction with the buyer and seller is that you have to meet expectations to both parties, and obviously you have a very difficult seller, and then I have these buyers that have to sell their property, and then on top of that, the buyer for that property was an agent representing himself, who was a brand new agent. So when I think back on it, I was really helping out that brand new agent, helping out them sell their house, and then also double ending this other big house.
So as if the pressure was not enough, at this point, the sellers made a decision financially that really turned up the heat on you. Tell folks about that.
Oh yeah, so at the end of the transaction, we found out that there was a secured loan that was attached to the house by the fixtures. So we're talking like the AC unit, the solar, like what have you. And there was not enough proceeds to close the transaction. So everyone had to chip in a little bit, but ultimately we took a pretty big haircut.
Yeah, it's for what it's worth. I never compromise on my fees, because every time I do, it also ends up being a super difficult transaction. So just to clarify for the audience, you got the deal under contract, and unbeknownst to anyone involved, the sellers decided to take out a loan against the property. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it was for living expenses. They had to rent their house and then also paying a mortgage on theirs. So it was to cover, living expenses.
Okay. And when the deal finally came to fruition, were the sellers, how did they feel about it?
They're unhappy. They didn't make any money from it, so they were trying to find other ways to complain about other things. But in the long run, it was done.
I think it just goes to show that you can't make all the people happy all the time. And that our role as brokers is to facilitate transactions first, and to try to please the people second. And that, I think this deal certainly exemplifies that. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know most people tell stories about their glory and their fame, and so it's refreshing to hear someone talk about a challenging transaction. Mm-hmm. So turning gears economically, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the office is how the market has changed, and that the market was very, very hot during the pandemic when interest rates are low, and now that the market has cooled and the rates have yet to come down, there are many people getting buyer's remorse. So can you talk about what you are seeing in the market in terms of people who, maybe bought at the top of the market and were banking on a refinance?
Yeah, I mean, we were seeing that a lot at the end of 23, even in 2022, because the market shifted during that time. But specifically in 23, I was helping out some clients, and they ended up buying a property, and being a VA loan, they had to put everything into the loan as well, like with closing costs and everything. So ultimately, they ended up paying, I think, $30,000 over what it was listed at.
Oh, in terms of what they took out in financing.
Correct. Yeah. And so now, we've kind of come to a point where I feel like we're almost level with that market right there. Because we had some hills and valleys, but it might have come up a little bit. But I think in certain areas, you're right there, right at the end of 23.
So a buyer who buys a house with limited to no equity, who then needs to sell the house, what do they do in that situation?
We have to do a short sale. It's basically, you have to go through the steps of contacting the bank. These particular buyers were VA, and so there is a particular program for veterans called a VA compromise sale, which is essentially a short sale, but they can take an entitlement hit. So on their next purchase, they just don't have whatever they are short for as far as their 100% financing on their entitlement.
Okay, so this client is a veteran who utilized their VA loan, and that the VA has a mechanism to basically bail people out if they get over the skis. And what was that program called?
It's the VA compromise sale.
Okay, and I would imagine this is not something that many agents have experience with.
I mean, I don't think so. Based how hot the market has been, I think this is something that's going to be more prevalent now.
Okay, and if someone needed to talk to an expert, who would they seek out?
Definitely me. Or someone that actually has gone through one of these transactions before, because there is a lot of steps.
Okay, so you heard that. The VA loan expert, if you're over your skis, is Justin at Palm Tree Properties. Perfect. Well, we are going to actually do a follow-up episode with our fantastic mortgage gal, Alex, so we won't dive too deep into that. But you had another crazy deal that actually is still ongoing with some unknown liens on title. Why don't you tell folks about that?
Yeah. It's a good thing, with the military backing and everything like that I try to stay very attention to detail type of things, And so one of the things I took a look at is the preliminary report from title, and we saw that there was almost $200,000 in liens on this property. And so I brought it to the sellers, and they were under the impression that this was already built into their loan, right? Because they contacted the bank and the bank had told them, this is how much you owe. But these were HUD liens. And so the bank was like, they weren't really being upfront with what they knew because I don't think they were aware of those HUD liens on top of it. So had another lender look into it as well so that we can both talk to them about it. And, long story short is they had those on top of it. So there's
so this owner basically has $200,000 less equity than they anticipated because of all of these liens. And how did they get these liens on the property?
Hardship, so they had to borrow money to pay their mortgage.
Okay. And is that typically a prudent financial move?
I would not advise to do.
Yeah, is taking out debt to pay other debt is typically not how wise finance works. Okay, so being that you have this foresight to look into this kind of stuff, what could have happened had you not been aware of this?
I mean, we could have ended up in another scenario with the property I was talking about at the beginning where we were in escrow or gotten into escrow and they don't have enough money to close, and then it's a whole ordeal. It could actually end up in lawsuits.
So your agent's ability to anticipate the problems that can occur can really save you in a transaction. And I think that this is one of the things that people underappreciate when working with someone who has more experience compared to someone who's new. Speaking of, you managed another tricky transaction for some folks who are going through a divorce. Why don't you tell us that story?
Yeah. I mean, divorces are never pretty or fun to deal with because usually like a transaction where it closes and everyone's happy and, go lucky and there's presents and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, they hated each other. And it was one of these situations where they weren't communicating because there was a court order for them not to communicate. So I had to talk to both parties. It ended up being a longer transaction because of just the inability to agree on anything. And so finally got them under contract, and the septic tanks, they didn't want to do anything with the septic. So the buyer agreed to, do a certification and septic pump. That's where they remove everything out of the septic tank, and it's certified by an inspector. Well, the lids that have to be exposed were not exposed, and I ended up having to uncover them because this particular septic company would not uncover them, and so I was out there probably 7 hours in the summer and with a shovel and pick, and yeah, that was the first and last time I'll ever do that.
What did that smell like?
That was horrible, but yeah, that was not fun. Yeah.
Agents take a lot of shit to get the deal done, but never literally. So this is certain. Actually, I take that back. The first major transaction I did was a shopping called Aztec Village. And my brokerage partner at the inspection stepped in some excrement that evidently was from a human, because there was a homeless encampment. And it was a joke that I'll never stop bringing up to him. Anyways, moving forward here, you had some great comments in our sales meeting today about the business that you don't get. So if you could sort of paraphrase what we had talked about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we always try to do is price the home accordingly. And basically there's different markets as far as timing. Like when interest rates are super low, it's a very hot seller's market. You can price it low and create a bidder war. But when interest rates are high, even in really high demand areas, it's not the best thing to price it too low because, buyers are going to be expecting it to be that price, So, but yeah, that was pretty much paraphrasing what we talked about, right?
Yeah, no, and you had told the story about you met with a prospective client who was just so stubborn on the price that you ended up not taking on the business.
Oh yeah. They I brought all the data. Specifically showed them that new builds were cutting their commission in order to bring buyers, and that's why they were selling a little bit quicker than the other homes in the area. And they ended up deciding on an agent because they liked them, and the agent told them to sell it, I think $150,000 over what I had told them to. And so,
okay, so the agent bought the listing.
The agent bought the listing, which is, I see that more and more these days. That's why it's like so important to really vet out the person and actually look at what they're presenting to you. But anyway, so it sat and ended up getting off the market, and it's still there. Yeah, it hasn't sold.
So, what I like to tell sellers who have unrealistic prices is I say, you're not wrong. Your timing's just not good. With inflation and, 10, 15, 20 years, it'll be worth that. But, I think that is a great lesson, is that to take an overpriced project, you're doing a disservice to the seller and you're wasting your time.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of our time and money and marketing.
Awesome. Well, those were some great anecdotes. In terms of looking forward this year, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing real estate, as well as what do you see as the biggest opportunities?
I think biggest challenges are that a lot of buyers are still expecting that the market's going to crash. Something's going to happen with the market. It's going to bring all these pricing down. Obviously, I don't see that happening just because demand's still higher than the supply. So, I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. And you can talk blue in the face to a buyer, but if they have it in their head, that's what's going to happen, then, that's kind of where it's at with that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I always tell people that it's always going to seem too expensive, but then 5 years later, you're going to feel like a genius.
Yeah. Like they have all those little reels of I should have bought in 2022. I should have bought in 2023. It's
yeah, no, it's and too with people are I'll buy when the rates go down, but what they don't factor in is that the prices are going to go up.
Yeah,
and that your payment's going to be the same. You're just not going to have the equity. Okay, so that's the challenge. What do you see as the opportunity for 2026 in real estate?
The opportunity, I think that are we talking about in California or just
in general?
I think that the opportunity for agents that actually take the time and do their research and, are really looking after their clients, those clients are going to prevail. You got a lot of AI that's assisting with things, but I think that it's going to push out a lot of agents that just expect to get business and aren't willing to put in the work. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for agents that actually are doing business and wanting to put in work.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I would say when the market slows down like this, there is a real consolidation of the players, because the people who are, the part-timers or the new people, they sort of get out of the business because there's less opportunities. But then by the time the market picks back up, the people who have stuck around, they've been planting those seeds and watering them and building a foundation. I really think that this year, all of the hard work from the down market is going to start to pay off.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, if someone was looking for a real estate agent in Ramona, why should they pick you?
Well, I know Ramona really well. I know how to deal with these septic issues. I know how to deal with wells and all the inspections that go along with it. I know what's around there, distances, schools. Actually, I'm not supposed to say schools, but everything else in between, I can definitely help out and navigate. High insurance, that's another big one that people just don't expect when they're going out there as far as what the cost is going to be. So we have a whole team that can help navigate them and make the whole transaction very smooth.
So many people who are agents who go out to work in Ramona are not familiar with the unique issues that you face. So what do you see as the missteps that out of area agents make when trying to do business in Ramona?
Well, they don't I'm not going to speak like specifically, but generally when you have someone that has never done a deal in a rural area, they have no idea what they're looking for with these type of inspections for, liens on properties, property lines, well inspections, like what a septic inspection involves with, and all that kind of stuff, or even the right vendors for it. Like I've talked to people that have come through open houses that they're in escrow on a specific property, but they aren't doing any well inspection or septic inspection. So they're just like winging it, I guess. I don't know. It's wild to me, because you'd think that with your water supply and your sewage that you'd want it dialed in, right?
Yeah, it's certainly, you cannot underestimate the due diligence when you're buying more of a niche property like that. Okay, and then if someone owns a property in Ramona, what are the mistakes that you see sellers make in that market?
Pricing is number one. Ramona was selling pretty high in 23, but ever since then, even 24, like at the beginning of it, was okay, and then I've just seen it kind of level off for the most part. It's gone up a little bit, but unless you've done a tremendous amount of upgrades and it's nice and clean and pristine, and you have a nice yard and everything like that, typically the house is sitting a little bit longer, because people that are moving up, they want that space. They want to be at home, and they want to have their outside space that's all nice, and they don't really want to do anything to the property. And if they do, they're coming up there for a fixer. It needs to be priced accordingly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, I think you gave us some wonderful insight on what the market is looking like, as well as this was basically a commercial that everyone should move to Ramona. So fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming down. Any closing remarks you'd like to share?
No, thank you for having me, and look forward to kicking butt in 26.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, that is a wrap for this episode of the Easy Deals podcast. If you are interested in being on the show, send me an email. We'll post it in the description. Thanks so much.